So, something that has been on my heart, like heavily for some time now, is how many leaders are exhausted. I remember coming through medical school and even family medicine training, residency program, how common the term burnout was, especially for me being a doctor, physician burnout. And it almost became like a accepted norm as I went through my training. And the way I heard it, whether it be in social media posts or the media or even in scientific literature, the way it was described was like this silent, quiet exhaustion. And I, thinking the way that I do, I realized looking around that burnout is anything but silent, especially knowing what it could lead to, not just impacting our relationships with loved ones and of course with the clients, the patients, but also with ourselves. And I don't think that is much emphasized when we look at burnout. Maybe it would be termed depression or something of that nature, but it doesn't look at self relationships. And I guess that might not be like a commonly used term at this point, but I could say on my personal journey, I could testify that relationship with self, it should be spoken about more. So yeah, Harry was a junior physician, and being aware, being in the midst of the chaos, which is medicine. I mean, medicine, it's dynamic, it's unpredictable, it's you have to always be ready. And the chaos that comes with it, you have to choose your specialty wisely. So here it was, I was thinking, why is it that it's being described as, quiet and silent, almost like if it's some little secret that the world, knows about, but it's not that big of a deal the way it was being described. And I had a problem with it. I hated witnessing myself, especially like when I was very new to the work field, witnessing friends who I've made along the way who were ahead of me in the ranking, and just realizing how their personalities changed so drastically from before when I knew them beyond them completing medical school and becoming a doctor. And just the way that it frightened me to think, gee, is this going to happen to me? Is this what the workforce, the experience itself, going to do to me? Because I would describe myself even now as someone who is easygoing and joyful, very, very mellow vibes. And, I just hated the thought that, you know, I could become someone who is very high negative energy and on edge and just feeling like in order for me to communicate with someone, I had to change who I am, who I know myself to be on the inside. So, as I mentioned, what I witnessed, what I observed bothered me, like really to a cellular level where I just had to do something about it. I just didn't know what yet. And along my training, as I went through family medicine residency and I was my year's chief resident when I came to that level in training, it was during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the world had shut down and went into isolation. And it was, you know, frontline workers only who were really out and about in the community. as needed. And with my responsibilities at the time as chief resident for my family medicine residency, we usually met in person on Friday afternoons to have like this protected residency time where it was like no, no grown-up adults allowed. It was like, I'm kidding. That's how I, at that time, referred to our consultants who are attendings or attendees. I think it's attendings in the USA system, but we call them consultants here in the Bahamas where I'm at. And, it was just residents of the various levels at that time and just, fellowshipping, learning, prepping for exams, always like practicing, certain scenarios that we could encounter with patients. And with the pandemic, we had to shut down the in-person meetings, but thank goodness for online platforms, so Zoom. So we met online at that time, and I was grateful for the privilege to have that leadership role as a trainee. And I remember that I used the first 5 minutes of our agreed upon meeting time to allow, which is usual, give like a 5 minutes grace period for persons who might be finishing up, whatever case, wherever elsewhere that they could join into the call. And I thought, I don't want to just be like, hey guys, we're going to start in 5 minutes, so I'll be back. I didn't want to just, waste the time. And I thought, what would be beneficial? What is it that is needed right now? My residents who I had the privilege of serving. And I thought, what about just a moment to reclaim a sense of calm and peace while we are currently in a time of uncertainty, especially in the medical world, where it's like we're witnessing some never heard of before tragedies and amongst us as well. So what I did was I did like this guided mindfulness routine within that first 5 minutes. And I found that I loved it so much. I myself, even though I was the one guiding the experience, I myself felt this sense of calm and peace and a sense of belonging that even though we weren't together in person, which is very, vital for that social connection, I still felt like I was a part of, this specialty, the this family, as we call ourselves, who, together we have this agreed upon purpose and where we're going out there working together to change health for our nation and make health easier and more accessible for our patients. And I continue to do it straight through, even as the restrictions about moving about became lighter. And since completing my residency, I've been asked by my family medicine department to continue these rituals. And then I realized that I was also creating moments outside of my workplace where I could walk through patients themselves. Well, I guess I would still be considered in the workplace. I should say experiences beyond my residency, my department, since I was no longer resident, where I could recreate that sense of calm and peace restoration for patients who may have presented with anxiety or they expressed that they were feeling depressed. And, I wanted to do something for them right there, right now, something that you could feel even before you left clinic and not just writing a prescription for medication, which isn't, always first thing that we should do anyway. And the feedback that I got from everyone that I did this experience with, my residents, my other colleagues, higher level grades of staff within the department, and then the patients that I mentioned. And I even did some sessions outside of medicine, outside of the industry, where I just, started this 30-day challenge experience and had persons internationally join in as well. And I just loved it. I just thought it was like the most amazing thing to do and such an honor to like be able to craft and design an experience with that outcome in mind. And as more time went on, I realized that my purpose for being here is tightly linked to why I was so irritated with what I witnessed, seeing the, as we term it, broken systems that aren't supportive of the workforce. However, with medicine and like I said, with other industries, it's very much expected to find that individuals, whether you're your employees in general or the leadership of organizations, they have we have such high expectations on us and responsibilities, duties, where at some point, despite, especially for leaders, at some point, despite having these roles and titles, I noticed as a leader myself, we don't get that support, if any. Rarely do we get support that allows us to do the job well with justice, as well as keep our unique selves intact. So I like to call that our essence. Like, what is it that makes us us? What is it that makes you you, like uniquely you? Like, you can teach someone, this is specifically you, this is your character. And I found that we were losing our character, our essence. I'm laughing because I'm thinking of like, I say that sometimes with fruit. I'm like, I only eat fruit with character. Like, I don't want like no boring fruit. It has to have character. So it's like, yeah, we want to have character as individuals because that's what makes us human. And I I know I'm going to talk about this concept, this thought that I have in another video, but just to like introduce it here, the era, the time that we live in. And today is the 10th of March, 2026. So I'm totally, accountability from you is much needed, where I am not going to hold on to this for forever and edit it and what have you. It's just going to be like raw and unfiltered. So the time that we live and exist right now, where artificial intelligence, it's amazing, but it's like it's everywhere, and good and bad, that I'm sure persons could speak about it, but the reality is it's everywhere. And I feel that now more than ever, it's very unique being human, or it's very important. I feel like it's a superpower that we're human beings, and living in this era of AI, because we have certain advantages over AI, and AI has a lot more maybe advantages over us with its capacities. But I mean, we're human, and because of that, we could better connect with each other, and we experience, life um, uniquely, but still, we are the ones who are alive. So what I am doing is I'm in the work now where I've been researching specifically in leadership and looking for ways where I could support leaders who have heavy mantles, and they might be considered overachievers or achievers. And they have this inclination to always be doing something that's high performance, and they tend to sacrifice themselves in order to get whatever job, duty, responsibility handled. It's like leaders, you have a problem, bring it up to your leader and they'll handle it. I mean, okay, they might delegate it at some point, which is a healthy thing to do. But for the most part, it's like if there's a problem, people know that because their leader is in this position, they they will figure it out. And many times leaders not having adequate training, as I'm learning along the way, adequate training, we MacGyver a lot. We adapt, we make it up in a way that makes sense, of course, but we trial and error many times. We have to experiment because some of these problems that come may not have a manual attached to it, or that might not have been in the training. And the risk, the weight of what could happen if this doesn't, if this wasn't the right choice or decision, sort of thing. So that's like a huge weight that leaders carry, the risks. And then the thing is, too, leaders are usually very accessible to all on their team, all who they are in charge of, on the team, as well as the higher levels of their organization. So they're like the in-between liaison between the general staff body and then the stakeholders. And with that, that's like just saying that that's even more responsibility than being, I feel, in either of those two bodies that I mentioned before. So I feel like it should be the birthright of leaders to have ongoing support that helps to sustain them in the work that they're doing while maintaining their humanity, what makes them human, meaning that acknowledging that leaders are human beings. And yeah, we need sleep, we need, all the basics that provides general health. And then we also have feelings and emotions. Like we want to be happy too. We want to be joyful too. We don't want to just always be in this chronic state of stress and, cortisol that has that flight or fight, um, impulse attached to making such high stakes decisions all the time. And then there's the chronic decision fatigue. And you know, leaders, their days start early, their days end late. It doesn't just end at the office. They're always either thinking about something, even though I've come across, research papers that suggest having like some ritual to end your day and not take that work responsibility or, any work home with you. But that's I wouldn't say it's impossible. That's very challenging for most leaders. Even if you say I'm not going to check my email or answer the phone if something's work related, but it's challenging because you might be thinking, hey, what is it that I have to do tomorrow? Or how did the day go? And you're just like debriefing in your head sort of thing. So I feel like now is the time, now more than ever, where I am going to create this safe space where leaders are poured into, where leaders can receive the level of care and attention. This is so this is so much my heart right now, where they can receive what they need. And this is going to be customized to their needs, but they're going to receive what it is that they need to exist and serve in their zone of genius. They're going to still be able to feel a sense of meaning with their job. And I've heard this so often um, recently where persons feel like detached from their job. So, an element of burnout, sure, but they also feel like they don't belong to their work anymore. And that's heartbreaking for me to hear. Where you've gone through, whether it be, extensive training and, however long you've been in the arena, the field, the industry, whatever we want to term it. And there just comes a point in your life because of what's been going all along. There comes a point in your career life where you just feel detached from the work you do, what you once loved, what you once sacrificed so much time to get yourself to this point, and not even just time, money, maybe social moments with your family, friends, missing, important events, missing, vacations sometimes, or just neglecting basic body needs just so you could get through the typical day or night, late night sort of thing, so you could be ready for the thing tomorrow. That's messed up for me. That is messed up and that is unacceptable. So, allowing for leaders to find again, to reconnect again with their their meaning with the work that they do, reconnect with their purpose for having gone into that line of work, reconnect with what makes them creative, and whether they consider themselves to be creatives or artistic in the manner that, grab a paintbrush kind of way, but we all have unique abilities and capacities within us. And we, with our experiences, have opportunities to bring forth new ways of viewing and doing things, and maybe just bringing forth new products or methodologies and what have you, sort of thing. So we all are creatives uh in some shape or form, but I'm just so excited to be on this journey because this this is needed now more than ever. I feel more is being expected of human beings at this time with AI on the you know on the front of so many industries. So it's going to take not just being intentional with our health, but being intentional with the way that we approach life. We have to we have to do this. We are going to do this. We are going to start a how would I say it? To redesign what it means to be a leader, because the way I see it, leadership is human first. And I'm gonna go deeper about that too in another video. But that itself is like the foundation of why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing, is to support the human behind the title, to sustain the human behind the role. And through that, I know that leaders will be able to cultivate a workplace culture for their team, for their organization, where this becomes the new norm. And eventually, there are going to be organizations that not only take care of their clients, but take care of their workforce as well. Yes, because I feel like that's how it should be, you know? The workforce, the employees are the bloodline of the industries, even like really tech forward industries. It's like even, someone had to start AI too, right? Uh so it's all about ensuring that your people are well cared for beyond, monetary compensation, but taking care of focusing on the fact that they are human so that organizations are transformed and then industries are transformed. Ah, well, if any of this has resonated with you, I invite you to continue on this journey with me. Stay tuned to see what it is that I get into and sharing otherwise where my outside of the box way of viewing things, where that takes us and how that's going to support you because I am here to do this work and I can't wait. And this is the beginning. And you get to be a part of this with me.